Chapter 441. Let's walk the dog together. I'm ready, really. I'll listen to everything you say. Just let me out. If people hear that your dad is still in prison, you won't have any place to put your face, right? Yu Minmin knew that he couldn't be locked up for life. She looked at her own father and firmly said, fine. Then you better remember this when you're out. Firstly, you are not to gamble. Yes. Secondly, you are not to go around swindling people and telling them that I'm your daughter. Otherwise. Well, you are my daughter, to begin with. How can that be called swindling? Anyway, I just won't take your name and use it. I also don't need to say that you are Madam President. It's enough that our family can lead a better life now. Thirdly, you are not to go to Glazed Tile Palace or other places that Mr. President and I will appear at. Okay, I'll listen to you. Yu Minmin looked at him. Even if he was let out, she was going to have people keep an eye on him so that he wouldn't cause trouble. She turned to the warden and said, please let him out then. Okay, we'll release him immediately. The warden then opened the door. Yu Minmin said, it doesn't have to be now. I need to leave first. Just follow your normal procedure. She couldn't be bothered to manage him here. Another word with him would already give her a huge headache. Before she reached Glazed Tile Palace, the bodyguard beside her passed a phone to her. She took a look and saw that it was from Gu Jingze. Thinking about it, she never received a call from Gu Jingze before. If Gu Jingze had any problem, it was always relayed to her through Linda. Gu Jingze asked, is your father released? Yes, he's out. I'll have people keeping an eye on him. Don't worry. Okay, thank you for especially calling. But I'd better save your number. I still don't have it on my phone. There was a silence on the other end. He said, okay, we'll talk when you get back. Yu Minmin returned to Glazed Tile Palace and saw that Gu Jingze had a new phone for her. Yu Minmin asked in puzzlement, what is this? It's a dedicated mobile phone. My number is in it. If you want to call me next time, call this number and use this phone. Yu Minmin looked at the seemingly ordinary yet exquisite-looking phone. Is it to prevent eavesdropping? It's a phone that places safety first. Just take it. Yu Minmin smiled and took it. She fiddled with the phone and realized that it was just like a regular phone with multiple functions. Inside, his number was stored as Gu Jingze. She chuckled. Having his number felt as if this was an improvement in their relationship. Lin Che reached home and played with Prince for a while. After Prince adjusted to the home with two maids dedicated to looking after him daily, his life was especially comfortable. Even Lin Che was starting to feel jealous. She hugged Prince and mumbled, you have such a good life. You have a nice place to live in and you don't need to think about anything. You don't have to suffer like me and go to compete in some socialite event. The maid said that it was time to feed Prince. Lin Che quickly put him down. Unexpectedly, Prince started running all around. Lin Che hurriedly said, hey, don't let him get lost. Quick, see where he ran to hide. The maids tried to catch the dog, taking something and intercepting him. Lin Che exclaimed, oh my, be careful not to hurt him. Prince is still too little. He might not recover properly if he gets hurt. The maids heard this and quickly became more careful. However, as they were afraid of hurting Prince, their movement was also much slower and it became even harder to catch the dog. Prince escaped so well that everybody searched high and low for him. When Gu Jingze came in, he saw that the maids were still searching. Gu Jingze frowned and asked, what are you guys doing? Lin Che stood on the sofa and said to Gu Jingze, we're looking for Prince. He's missing. Gu Jingze looked at the maids speechlessly. Lin Che said, Prince is too small and there are too many people. He must be scared. That's why he's hiding. The maids stood there silently. They were so occupied with finding the dog that the room became so messy. Although it wasn't too messy, a fussy person like Gu Jingze definitely wouldn't be happy to see this. Thus, everyone looked at Gu Jingze worriedly and silently. The room suddenly became a lot quieter. Lin Che quickly asked, what's wrong? Quick, find him. He must still be in this room. Gu Jingze frowned and stared. After some time, he finally waved his hand and said, hurry up and find him. He turned back and let his bodyguards in on the search too. The maids were very surprised. But Gu Jingze doted on Lin Che so much. It also made them feel rather happy. After a while, someone finally said, I found him. I found him. Lin Che hurried over and hugged Prince. Oh my, don't run off again like this. Gu Jingze also already came over with a frown, keeping such a thing now, you know how troublesome it is. Not at all, it is troublesome, but it's also a fun part of life. Oh right, I'm thinking of letting him out. Gu Jingze said speechlessly, he's so small. How can we let him out? I haven't done it before. It's good to go for a walk too. Gu Jingze could only say, all right. She asked, are you coming with me? Of course. What if you and the dog get lost if I let you go alone? She thought speechlessly that she wasn't a kid. But seeing that Gu Jingze went to change his clothes, she still jumped in joy as she followed behind him. Both of them went out together with the dog. At the park outside, the puppy ran around on the grass. This was considered a wealthy district. They were surrounded by villas after villas. At the park, some people were walking their dogs while some brought their children out to stroll and play. Lin Che carried the dog in her arms and teased it, you're so adorable, Prince. Our Prince is the cutest. She put him back down on the ground and watched him run around. A few children were still playing on the other side. Lin Che said, you see, our puppy is so fortunate to be able to run around. Yes, he doesn't have to do anything and gets looked after by you. Of course, he's fortunate. What? He brings us joy and happiness. That is his purpose. Why, have you never kept a pet? No. Why not? It's troublesome. Haha, I don't think he's as troublesome as you. What did you say? Nothing. It's such a waste of time. Do you know how many documents you can read and how much you can learn with that amount of time? Fine, a philomath's world is not the same as ours, Lin Che said. When I was young, I even secretly kept a little rabbit for a few days. It was later discovered by Lin Yu. She secretly took my rabbit to the kitchen and it became rabbit soup. Gu Jingze frowned. Lin Che said, later, I thought that I just needed to move out and have my own house. Then I'll be able to keep pets. Just then, another dog dashed over. Lin Che got scared and quickly ran, no, Prince. Chapter 442, there's something prepared for you at any time. Gu Jingze quickened his pace, but they were still too late. The bigger dog already had Prince's foreleg in its mouth. Lin Che hastily picked Prince up and kicked the bigger dog to the side. She kicked my dog. A little boy's voice sounded. The little boy also hurried over. Lin Che looked at Prince in her arms. She couldn't see any problem, but Prince was whimpering and shivering, making Lin Che's heart ache badly. The little boy picked up his own dog. Looking at it, he angrily looked up, Auntie, come here. This stinky woman kicked my dog. It was the boy's nanny who looked like a Filipino maid. The Filipino maid saw this and said, young master, it's fine. Isn't the dog okay? The Filipino maid looked at the couple in front of her. They were dressed very simply and it was too dim for her to see them clearly. The little boy huffed, how can that be? They kicked my dog. I want them to pay me. Seeing that the owner was a little boy, Lin Che patiently said, your dog bit my dog. If I didn't do something, your dog might have killed mine. My dog is too small. He can't get bitten like that, okay? The little boy looked up and said, it's obvious that your stupid dog is not worth any money. My daddy brought my dog back from Japan for me. Hey, keeping a pet is about a relationship, not about money. He may be worthless to you, but he is more precious than any expensive pet to me. I don't care. You kicked my dog anyway. Auntie, quickly call the police. I want the police to take them away. Humph. Where did this tyrannical kid come from? He still looked young but he already knew how to use power to push people over. Lin Che said, you bratty kid. The maid looked at both of them and said, you guys better pay our young master. Otherwise, you'll just go to the police station. Hey, Lin Che wanted to speak, but Gu Jingze held her back and said to the boy, your dog is a Japanese mastiff. This kind of dog is known for being too aggressive and it's prohibited in this country. So when we get to the police station, the dog that will be taken away will be yours. What nonsense are you talking about? How can that be prohibited? My dad said that we can keep anything. Just then, the boy's parents came from behind. They saw the scene from a distance. Gu Jingze and Lin Che stood in front while the Gu family's elite guards quietly kept watch not so far away. Zhao Shan, what are you doing? The father scrambled towards them anxiously. Sorry, what is going on with our child? The boy angrily exclaimed, they kicked my dog. The father immediately covered the child's mouth, turned around, and slapped the Filipino maid. How did you look after him? You actually let him collide with a nobleman. The Filipino maid still didn't know what was happening. Wrongfulness was written on her face. Lin Che watched this. Although she didn't feel comfortable, it wasn't in her place to stop him. She could only say, your child's dog bit my dog, so I kicked it away. Gu Jingze also chimed in from behind, but I remember that this kind of dog is prohibited. The father's face turned as white as a sheet of paper. He looked at the handsome and charming Gu Jingze who was cold throughout his body. That extraordinary aura around him made the father not dare to say anything more. Yes. This kind of dog is prohibited. We'll take it back and get rid of it. The father looked at Lin Che's dog. That little tiny puppy in Lin Che's arms was obviously an average mutt. He felt puzzled about it. But he also thought, forget it. Who knew what these elite families were thinking? Perhaps they simply liked the uniqueness of this kind of mutt. Anyway, no matter how valuable this dog was or whether it was worthless, its value was already elevated to exceptional lengths. Seeing them quickly slip away, Gu Jingze then walked back home with his arm around Lin Che. Let's hurry back and see if Prince is hurt. Yes, let's do that. But, she looked up. How did you know what kind of dog that was? I've read about it. Lin Che said, but there are so many breeds of dogs. You're actually able to remember such a rare breed. Lin Che only knew commonly seen breeds like the Pomeranian or Golden Retriever. That dog just now looked so weird that she couldn't find a name for it at all. But Gu Jingze was actually able to recognize it and even name it. Gu Jingze said, don't compare yourself to me. Go. He was teasing her again. However, Gu Jingze was really like a kaleidoscope. He knew everything and made it look like he was familiar with anything. He was really very capable. At home, Lin Che quickly called the maids to help check on Prince. The maids took a closer look and found a little injury on the dog's leg. There wasn't a lot of blood loss, but it was still an open wound. Lin Che's heart ached. Gu Jingze said from the side, we'll call someone to handle it. It looks like he's still too small to go outside. Let's wait until he gets a bit older and we'll bring him out again. Lin Che could only pout and look at Prince pitifully. Alright then, wait until you grow up. I'll take you out to play. Gu Jingze let the maids take the dog away and then said to Lin Che, yeah, these things can grow at top speed. Come here, let's play. What? Lin Che froze. Gu Jingze tapped her nose plainly and quickly pulled her into the room. Come here and I'll tell you. What exactly are you talking about? Gu Jingze pushed her against the door and said, see. It's still small now, but there's something here that will grow big once you touch it. How nice is it to not need to wait? Lin Che looked down and realized what he meant. She blushed and said, get lost. But Gu Jingze already grabbed her hands and was caressing her all over. Lin Che still felt shy and didn't want to look at him. Why are you always like this every day? I don't know either, I just can't get enough of you. What do you think I should do? Lin Che heard this and blushed even more. She couldn't look at him at all. Gu Jingze said, I simply want to have you all the time. It's never enough. What do you think I should do? He felt his body was ready for her very quickly. It was as if her hands were like magic. Just a touch already sent his body swelling uncontrollably. Gu Jingze hugged her and bit her shoulder, slowly pushing her to the bed. The next day, Yu Minmin passed some things to Lin Che. The competition segments for this year's WW party are out. Take a look and see if there's any chance of survival. Lin Che took the paper and saw that the first segment was horse riding. Lu Chusha was going to win. Chapter 443. She didn't know any of these segments. The second one was fencing. She didn't know how Lu Chusha fared in that, but she only knew that she never fenced before. The third segment was ballet. God damn, this was completely Lu Chusha's strong suit. Was this party specially prepared for Lu Chusha? Lin Che said, I'm dead, I'm dead. I'm definitely going to die. These are all of Lu Chusha's strong suits. Yu Minmin said, I listened around and heard that the committee members are all people who know Lu Chusha. So you're saying that Lu Chusha might have had influence this long ago? That's right, she is totally confident that you can't win against her. Lin Che gradually clenched her fists, she really looks down on me too much. Anyway, I still have a month. I may not lose to her. Yu Minmin said, yes. The rest is up to you. Both of them went to the ranch in the afternoon. This was an ordinary ranch. Because of Yu Minmin and Lin Che's arrival, the ranch owner already cleared the grounds for them. Yu Minmin said, sometimes, this Madam President status comes in handy. Although I usually don't like to use my special privilege, we don't have a choice this time. Lin Che selected a horse to try out. The Gu family's bodyguards helped her ride it. She walked one round with the horse. She told them to let go of the horse and she rode it herself. However, she still did not dare to ride it at a faster pace. She got down and said, it looks like I need to practice more often. As for fencing, Lin Che absolutely had no confidence in it. Yu Minmin said, I heard that there is an expert fencing instructor. I've asked around and that fencing expert is called Satu Chong. He won world championships before, but he returned to his family to settle matters at home. He never came out to compete again. However, during 1 year, he trained Guan Qing who had zero experience in fencing. Guan Qing won that year's female championships. From then on, everybody says that the students he trains will definitely become proficient. I don't think you can win against Lu Chusha in horseback riding, but fencing may be the segment for you to bounce back. Lin Che nodded and said, we can only do that, but how do we find him? Are we going to hire him? Impossible. The Satu family owns a large family company that makes ships. He is the little prince of the family. His character is weird and he is unpredictable. It's difficult to locate him and he doesn't need your money. Also, the main thing is that he has never really interacted with the Gu family. However, he has worked with the Lu family. No way, Lin Che immediately felt hopeless. In any case, just go and try your luck. I've already asked people to find his whereabouts. This was still Yu Minmin's strong suit. She was fully qualified to be logistical support, especially now that she was Madam President. Many more things were achievable now. Yu Minmin said, Satu will be at a little place at Chongshan for a break over these few days. You can go over there and give it a shot. Alright then, does he have any hobbies or interests? Absolutely not, he comes out too rarely, so very few people know if he has any hobbies. Okay, Lin Che looked at the address. Taking this leap of faith this time made her feel rather down on her luck. And on the other side, Lu Chusha looked at Lin Li who was walking in. She said to Lin Li, I don't know if you've heard of the WW party. Lin Li froze and then her eyes lit up, I've heard about it. Of course, I've heard about it. It's a party that girls in the entire C nation would die to attend. Those who can attend are the elite socialites. Only rich, young mistresses like Miss Lu can attend. Lu Chusha sat there, leaning against her seat and crossing her slender legs. She held her cup of coffee and drank slowly. What if I recommended you to attend this year's WW party? Lin Li was ecstatic. She looked at Lu Chusha in disbelief, really? Of course it's real, Lu Chusha said. I won't make you lose out if you follow me. I already told you that I will let you experience the charms of an elite family. Lin Li was naturally on cloud 9, thank you so much. Miss Lu, I will be as loyal as a dog. Also, that sister of yours will be there too. Lin Li heard this and paused for a moment. Lin Che was also going. Why, are you afraid of her? Of course not, Lin Li scoffed lightly. She doesn't know anything, I know her too well. She never learned any skills since she was young. I know her all too well. That's right. That was exactly what I thought. You know her so well that she will definitely concede defeat to you. This is the information for this year's WW party. You can take a look. It will last for a week and will be held at Shenyang Island. It will be a huge event and I hope you'll get a good placing. Then is Miss Lu not participating? Me, of course, I am. Then the first place will definitely go to you. I probably won't have a chance. Lin Li, of course, know how to suck up to her. Lu Chusha said naturally, being able to participate would already be great exposure for you. There's only one spot for first place, but you need to know that as long as you have a good placing, your popularity will immediately shoot up in the circle. Hope built up in Lin Li's heart. Of course, she knew about this benefit. It was already enough if Lu Chusha let her gain some exposure. Being able to participate was something thousands of girls desired and no ordinary girl could. Her participation this time would already make many people jealous. She wouldn't assume that she would be able to win the title, but even if she was one of the top few names, her popularity would increase. She would then be able to be noticed by those wealthy people and be ranked among the socialites. That was the greatest benefit for her. Looking at Lin Li's insane happiness, she scoffed. These low-class people were already so happy to attend the WW party. Meanwhile, she won first place consecutively. However, Lu Chusha still made Lin Li participate too. Because when it came to things like obstructing Lin Che, she would never personally do it. Furthermore, as Lin Li said, she knew Lin Che well. It would definitely be interesting for the two sisters to compete. When the time came, it would naturally be best if Lin Li immediately brought Lin Che down from the start. But even if she couldn't, she would frustrate Lin Che so much that Lu Chusha would deal the final blow to her. Lu Chusha said to Lin Li, "Oh right, you've probably learned all these before, right?" Lin Li looked at the information and said, "I have learned horseback riding and ballet, but fencing." Chapter 444. Seems like this fencing instructor is hard to approach. Fencing. There is some information on a person here. He is named the top instructor. If you can get him to coach you on fencing, you might be able to win. Lin Li heard this and quickly took the paper to see. The name on it was Situ Chong. She seemed to have heard this name from somewhere. Lin Che made her way to Shongshan on that day. She took a plane and very quickly reached S City where Shongshan was. On the car, she looked at the documents while Yang Lingxin asked, "Sister Che, is this person very important?" Lin Che said, "Of course. He's the person who will determine whether I'll be an embarrassment or not." "Why don't you let President Gu make a trip down?" Gu Jingze never interacted with him, Lin Che explained. Actually, she really didn't want Gu Jingze to go and plead to someone else for her sake. If Gu Jingze went, there would be two possible consequences. One was that he would have to put down his pride and beg. The other was to use tyranny and leave that person with no other choice. The latter wasn't a good idea and she would never bear to let Gu Jingze beg someone. Especially not for her. It didn't matter if she was the one begging. She didn't really have any status, to begin with, neither did she have any ammunition. She was also used to being shameless. Yang Lingxin was in charge of handling miscellaneous matters. When they reached the hotel, they headed straight to the room and made preparations. They were not too far away from Shongshan. Standing on higher grounds, they could see that the resort looked very simple but extremely beautiful and spacious. It looked like a good place for wealthy people to recuperate. This Situ Chong knew how to enjoy too. After Lin Che settled down, she headed to Shongshan. However, when she arrived at the entrance, she was stopped. Lin Che asked, "Isn't this the resort?" The staff at the entrance said, "Sorry, this place is not open to the public today." "Not open to the public?" Lin Che asked, "I'd like to know if Mr. Situ is in here." The staff only looked at Lin Che and ignored here. Lin Che said, "I just want to visit Mr. Situ. Am I not allowed to?" "Mr. Situ is not seeing anybody. Please leave. Can't you tell Mr. Situ to at least meet me before rejecting?" "Mr. Situ does not see anybody. Please leave," he grunted and said. "If you don't, I'm not going to be courteous to you." He was about to chase her off when another voice sounded from behind. "Lin Che, you're here to look for Mr. Situ too." It was Lin Li. She also came on the same day to visit Situ Chong. Lin Che saw Lin Li and was equally surprised. Lin Li asked, "Why? Do you think only you can join the WW party?" Lin Che was even more surprised. "You're joining the WW party?" "That's right. I already qualified. Why, are you surprised?" Lin Li said triumphantly. "If an illegitimate child like you can participate, of course I can participate. Don't underestimate my status now." Lin Che would never believe that a daughter of the Lin family would qualify for such a grand event. After thinking about it, she understood that it must have been Lu Chusha's doing again. Lin Li grunted and shoved Lin Che aside. She said to the entrance staff charmingly, "Handsome, I am Lin Li. I'm not sure if you've seen the TV dramas I acted in. I want to see Mr. Situ. Can I?" The entrance staff swept over Lin Li. "Mr. Situ does not welcome visitors." Lin Li's face instantly fell and she grunted, "Who do you think you are? Do you dare to stop me? You are just a watchdog. I have Miss Lu's recommendation. Take it to your Mr. Situ. He'll see me immediately." The entrance staff said, "Mr. Situ already instructed us. He doesn't want to see anybody. If you guys continue being a nuisance here, I'll immediately send people to get rid of you." Sure enough, Lin Li stepped forward. "I'll see how you can chase me away. If you dare to touch a hair on me." Lin Che was still watching from behind. She kept a distance that was not too far and not too near. The entrance staff waved his hand and the men behind stepped forward, ready to chase them off. But when it came to Lin Che, someone quickly said in a low voice, "This woman is part of the Gu family. Do you see? You can't touch her." The entrance staff took one look. Sure enough, some burly men were behind her. They all wore concealed badges of the Gu family. These people were Gu Jingze's people. The entrance staff pondered for a while and then said, "Miss, since you are under the protection of Mr. Gu, we won't put you in a spot. It's just that Mr. Situ demanded not to see anyone. It's better that you leave." Lin Li was chased off to the side. Lin Che looked and could only retreat. Lin Li watched in anger. She glared at Lin Che and grunted, "You can't see him anyway, humph. Wait until I get a letter from the Lu family. I'll come to look for him again. These dogs will have to make way for me. I'll see how you can meet Mr. Situ. Humph." Lin Che returned defeated and sulked in her hotel room. She didn't expect Situ Chong to really not see anybody. She called Yu Minmin and told her about it. Yu Minmin said, "I guessed that he wouldn't be easy to approach. I'll think of a way to get you in tomorrow. You'll see Situ Chong then and plan your route back." Lin Che could only nod and ask her, "How are you going to get me in?" "I'll have to think of a way to use weirdo Gu." Why did she call Mr. President a weirdo? However, Yu Minmin indeed made use of her relations. The next day, she asked Linda to settle it. She sent Linda straight to Shongshan to investigate in the name of the government on the basis that there could be hidden dangers endangering public safety. Linda brought some people along with her. When she met Lin Che, she made Lin Che put on the military uniform. Under the disguise of a female soldier, she snuck in with them. Yang Lingxin also tagged along, feeling extremely amazed when she went in. "Those people yesterday really can't say anything now," Linda said. "They naturally don't dare to offend the National Security Agency. Alright, you guys go in. I'll take you out later." Lin Che nodded and thanked Linda. Yang Lingxin said, "Even the president is helping you. Sister Che, you'll definitely succeed." Lin Che said, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch. It's a risk for us to come in here like this. If Mr. Situ isn't willing to help us, he'll be even angrier when he sees us come in like this. That would be a disaster." Yang Lingxin said, "Surely not. If we beg him sincerely, why wouldn't he help? Mr. Situ has a weird character. And even if he was a normal person, it's natural to not want to help others. Not everybody is willing to do something for a complete stranger." Chapter 445, Mr. Situ is here. The two of them walked as they looked at the antique decor. This place was filled with charm and was really a good place to recuperate. Yang Lingxin also said, "This place is really huge." Lin Che nodded in agreement. Unexpectedly, they saw Lin Li coming in from a distance. She was also stunned when she saw Lin Che and Yang Lingxin. How did you come in? Lin Che said, I should be asking you that. I told you that I got a letter from the Lu family. Of course, I can come in when I said I can. Oh, is it? Then why haven't you gone to see Mr. Situ? Lin Che hit the nail on the head and made Lin Li's expression change. She came in disguised as service staff, probably also intending to play by ear once she saw Mr. Situ. She also didn't expect Situ Chong to be so annoying. He didn't give face to the Lu family. It was simply too disgraceful. Lin Li said, what about you? What trick did you use to sneak in? Do you believe that I'll call for people now and have them throw you out? Lin Che grunted, very well. If I go out, we can all go out. Who was afraid of whom? Lin Li naturally didn't dare. She squinted at Lin Che's military uniform, but she did quite look the part. Furthermore, Yang Lingxin was behind her somehow dressed up the same as Lin Che. Even though they didn't look alike, their hair, makeup and style were practically the same. Seriously, did she look up to Lin Che that much to dress up like her? Lin Che was merely an illegitimate child. She said, I'm going to look for Mr. Situ now. Don't disturb me. Yang Lingxin said behind, we don't know who is disturbing whom just yet. Lin Li said, Lin Che, can you keep that brat behind you in check? She's so rude. If we were in ancient times, she would have been chased out. When the master talks, it has nothing to do with a brat like her. Yang Lingxin heard this and stiffened up. Lin Che frowned and said, what brat? Do you really think you're a master? This is my friend. If you insult my friend again, I won't let you off. Lin Li looked at the aggressive behavior of Lin Che, you dare to not let me off. How will you do that? If you dare to touch me, Lu Chusha won't let you off. Lin Li turned to Yang Lingxin and slapped her on the face. I just want to see how you're not going to let me off. What can you do to me because of this brat? The innocent Yang Lingxin was stunned by her slap. Lin Che looked at Lin Li angrily. She reached out and slapped her back. Lin Li was taken aback. Lin Che, you dare to hit me because of a brat? She headed straight towards Lin Che. Lin Che reacted fast and grabbed hold of her hands. Hitting Lin Li was a trivial thing. The two of them often fought when they were younger. Lin Li froze as her hands were held down. She yelled at Lin Che, let go of me, you little slut. You dare to hit me? Ouch, it hurts. Lin Che grabbed her hands and took a step back. When she was young, she always worried about getting scolded when she hit Lin Li. Now, she did not have a care in the world. Lin Li raised a leg and wanted to kick her, but Lin Che released her grip and blocked her leg, sending Lin Li to the ground. Lin Li's hands were twisted to the back. She wailed agonizingly, exclaiming that it hurt. But in that instant, the Shongshan Resort people very quickly discovered the commotion here. They saw Lin Che pinning Lin Li to the ground, firmly leaving no space for her opponent to move. What's going on? Who's that over there? Who let these people in? Amidst the chaos, a cold voice suddenly sounded. What on earth is going on? Following this voice, a man clad in a black suit walked over with a strict face. Housekeeper Chen, these two people were fighting. Lin Che looked up and saw a sightseeing car pulling up behind. In the car was a person wearing white slacks and sunglasses. He sat there with a clay-like cold expression. Housekeeper Chen said, what is going on? They got into a fight. How are you guys keeping watch? Master Chong is coming soon. How are you going to answer him? Sorry, we'll settle this right now. Lin Che quickly released Lin Li. Lin Li was still yelling, ah, Lin Che, you dare to hit me. You wait. Lin Li's hands were almost torn off. She looked up and saw the person at the side. Naturally, she immediately knew that that person was the mysterious Situ Chong. Lin Li saw the crew coming in to get rid of them. She quickly called out, Mr. Situ, I'm the one that Lu Chusha recommended. She said that you two are good friends. Do you see? I have a letter. Housekeeper Chen frowned. He hastily and cautiously looked at the man behind and then said, what are you still standing there for? Get these people out quickly. The crew quickly came over and dragged the three girls out. Lin Li said, Mr. Situ, can you please look at the letter? I'm a longtime fan of yours and I specially came to see you. You can make me do anything. Please don't chase me out. In contrast, Lin Che only looked at the man and thought to herself, it was really a lot worse to be sent out like this. However, if he wasn't willing to help, then no amount of shouting and yelling would help. Just then, the man suddenly waved his hand and sent someone to them. Housekeeper Chen quickly ran over. The man seemed to be telling him something. He turned back and said to the crew, "Stop. Release them." Lin Che was finally released. Lin Li then heaved a sigh of relief. She spoke while looking at Lin Che, "I just knew it. Miss Lu's letter is more useful than anything." But at this moment, the sightseeing car slowly rolled towards them. As the man drew closer, his cold aura also followed. Although he looked very simple and was also dressed very simply, he still felt very oppressive. Lin Che initially thought that he was an old man. However, the man in front of her didn't even look 30 years old. His handsome face had a quiet expression. Naturally, after being with Gu Jingze and seeing so many handsome faces, she didn't have any reaction to handsome men now. However, looking at him again, she still felt that his looks weren't inferior to any good-looking guy. His gaze fell on Lin Che. He sized her up and seemed a little uneasy. He said, "You, stay." Lin Che froze. Beside her, Lin Li's face instantly fell. Housekeeper Chen saw this and said to the crew, "Take everyone else away." Mr. Situ, you can't do this." Lin Che was stunned. She watched as Lin Li continued calling out while she was mercilessly dragged away. She then turned to Situ Chong and said humbly, "Hello Mr. Situ, I am Lin Che. I'm really sorry for barging in like this." Chapter 446, "Okay, I will teach you." He stared at Lin Che and said, "Come up here and talk to me." Lin Che nodded and hopped onto his sightseeing car. Yang Lingxin wanted to tag along but was stopped. Lin Che shot a look at Yang Lingxin, signaling that she would go alone. Lin Che looked at the man beside her. Because of his sunglasses, she couldn't look into his eyes. She could only roughly feel that he was looking at her. He suddenly asked, "Have you learned mixed martial arts?" "Huh." Lin Che froze and said, "No." "Really? Those moves just now looked rather neat." "Oh, that. It's because I often fought when I was young, so I know how to fight a little better. Also, girls are generally weak. Girls like them who don't do hard work or even worse, so of course, she couldn't fight me. I've been mixing around out on the streets since I was young. I've done all kinds of menial jobs. I'm different from them." He smirked and looked at Lin Che. He finally took off his sunglasses. He did see the abnormality here just now. When people came over, he noticed the two ladies fighting. Thus, he specially stopped far away and watched how they fought. Little did he expect this thin and weak woman to be so violent. She unceremoniously pinned the other woman to the ground. Furthermore, that move was swift and it looked good. He asked, "Did you come to find me because of WW party?" "Ah, how did you know?" Lin Che said sheepishly. He replied, "I've been told that this party will have a fencing segment. So I thought there would be people coming to look for me. It's just a pity that those rumors are merely rumors. I'm not that good." "How can that be? There is no smoke without fire. Furthermore, I really have no other idea either. I can cure a dead horse as if it's alive." The man froze and turned to her, "Are you saying that you're the dead horse or I'm the dead horse?" Lin Che immediately realized she had said the wrong thing. She quickly said, No, I'm the dead horse. It's me. Of course, it's not you. You're a world champion and I am someone who doesn't even know what fencing is for." It was rare for him to smile. Looking at her for a long time, he then asked, "Why are you vying for first place?" "It's just a party. It's just a title, but I promised someone. We made a bet to see who will win. I can't just give up without trying, so I still want to compete." He laughed, "You must have agreed to Lu Chusha." "Hey, how did you know?" "This circle isn't big. Whatever you want to know, you can still find out about it. Between you and Lu Chusha, whoever wins will get Gu Jingze." Lin Che said, "It's nothing like that. These people are spreading nonsense. I'm also curious. Gu Jingze is such a conceited man. Nobody would dare to use him as a wager." "Oh, you know Gu Jingze?" "Of course. Who on this earth doesn't know Gu Jingze?" That was true. Although Gu Jingze kept a low profile, it didn't stop all kinds of rumors from running outside. However, although that's not how it is, I still made a bet. I don't want to admit defeat, but I know that I probably won't be able to win at horseback riding against her. I can only rely on fencing to redeem myself. Otherwise, I might not even have the rights to fight her. In comparison to Lu Chusha, you are indeed inferior. Was he here to attack her? He looked at Lin Che, but if you want to try, I'll be back in B City in 3 days. I'll see you then. Ah, so you agree? Really, thank you so much. She looked at him happily. She didn't expect him to agree so readily. Situ Chong said, there's no meaning in life anyway. It doesn't hurt to take in a disciple. She was someone being used to pass time. Never mind, as long as he agreed to teach her, it was fine. Lin Li didn't expect to get chased out. She quickly called Lu Chusha and told her about the whole incident. Lu Chusha heard this and was very shocked. She only scolded Lin Li over the phone, you're really useless. You already lost to Lin Che from the beginning. I think you're going to be defeated by her sooner or later. Lin Li was also very exasperated. She could only say, but Situ Chong is really very weird. He saw both of us, but he only let Lin Che stay while I was chased out. I mentioned your name but it was no use. Lin Che is a vixen, to begin with. She has plenty of tricks up her sleeves. You didn't learn how to hook men from her and you're complaining to me. Humph, forget it. I didn't think you could succeed anyway. You're on your own. If you get eliminated by Lin Che from the start, don't blame anyone else. Lu Chusha angrily hung up the phone, making Lin Li feel very wronged. She was beaten up and Mr. Situ still favored Lin Che. She was very upset. Who would have thought that this Situ would be so eccentric? Lu Chusha thought about it and was also puzzled. Situ Chong usually never welcomed visitors. How come he even? Lin Che and Yang Lingxin made their way back to B City. While looking at documents on the way, Yang Lingxin asked, is that Mr. Situ really going to teach you back home? Yes. I think he's weird. Sister Che, it's better if you keep a distance from him. He's alright. It's probably because people like to bother him too much and he became annoyed. Of course, he doesn't want to bother with people anymore. Alright then, so when you guys went in, did you talk about anything else? No, we didn't. But I still find it weird. Why would he suddenly be willing to help you? Wasn't it known that he was a little unpredictable? However, it seemed like he so easily agreed to help Lin Che. I guess he's really very bored. Lin Che really didn't want to think too much right now. She only wanted to prepare herself for this event properly. The fencing issue was settled for now, but there was still the ballet segment. She didn't know ballet and she could learn it. When she got home, Gu Jingze saw that she was busy searching for something. He went over and asked, what are you looking at? I'm looking at ballet. Tell me which one of these teachers is better. I don't know how to dance, but I have a knack for performing. I can learn just by watching. Gu Jingze looked at her work so hard. The food was still at the side, untouched. He looked silently at her and reached out to take the tablet from her. That's enough. Put it aside and eat first. Ah, it's okay. I want to search first. Time is of the essence. No, he pulled her to him overbearingly. He grabbed her by the waist and made her face him as she sat on his lap. Oh my, what are you doing? Lin Che exclaimed and quickly looked at the maids around them. Gu Jingze didn't seem to worry. He even raised his hand and said to the maids, get a new plate for madam. The maids quickly served a plate. Chapter 447, Why must you work so hard? The plate was put at the side and Gu Jingze held the spoon up. Lin Che said, I can do it myself. Open wide, he said with a straight face. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and could only open her mouth obediently. After feeding her, Gu Jingze then nodded in satisfaction. He took another spoonful. Seriously, I can do it myself. You'll forget to feed yourself and the food will turn cold. Eating cold food is not good for the body, especially for that small body of yours. Lin Che munched on her food as she looked at Gu Jingze. He held the spoon between his slender fingertips. Then, he blew the porridge on it and brought it to Lin Che. That demeanor looked extremely gentle. Those lake-like eyes glistened quietly and gently. It seemed to run over her heart, giving her a sense of peacefulness. This made her calm down a lot more and she lost her anxiousness. With such a pleasing husband, she felt that no matter how tough or sad it was all worth it. Even if she was always suffering because of him, there would always be plenty of people wanting this outstanding man. However, it was all worth it for this one and only man. Since she was already lucky enough to be by his side, she had to work hard. She stared at him until she was becoming infatuated. She really wanted to stare at him for an entire day and it still wouldn't be enough. Because he really looked too handsome. Gu Jingze looked at her beaming at him. She looked at him like a starving cat and he was the food. He pinched her nose. Eat your food. What are you staring at? Seriously, that posture and that close proximity made her want to eat him right there and then. How could she be in the mood to eat food? Gu Jingze asked, do you want to win against Lin Che that badly? Lin Che nodded profusely. Word has spread everywhere that I'll have to leave you if I lose. I'll make the outsiders talk less. But this is a battle for my husband. If I don't try my best now, when will I do it? Don't worry, I'm not going to lose you. Gu Jingze paused. He looked at her petite face and pinched her cheeks. He softened a little and then said, quickly finish your food. I'll take you to find a ballet teacher. Really? Okay, I'll eat faster, but you need to put me down first. She asked, how can I eat properly like this? Gu Jingze thought about it. He also wanted her to eat properly, so he nodded and let her eat in peace. After she ate, Gu Jingze then brought her to a school. The students were dancing in the ballet class. They looked extremely beautiful and graceful when they moved to the music. Lin Che watched and said, the ballet here looks very professional. Gu Jingze said, but of course. The students here always wins world championships. All the students who graduate from here are elites. Ah, are you finding a teacher for me here? That's right, Gu Jingze replied. Lin Che still felt nervous, feeling that it wasn't such a good idea for such a professional teacher to teach someone who didn't know anything. Upon entering the studio, she saw students still dancing. A teacher in her 50s stood there with excellent posture. Everyone was very curious when they saw the couple enter. Especially when they saw Gu Jingze, all the gorgeous ballet girls blushed. The teacher paused the class and turned to Gu Jingze, Mr. Gu, you're here. Gu Jingze nodded. Oh, is this the student? That's right, Gu Jingze introduced Lin Che. This is Teacher Liu, she is the top ballet teacher in the country. You can learn ballet from her during this period. Lin Che nodded and quickly greeted the teacher. After Gu Jingze left, Lin Che stayed behind to learn. The students at the side looked on curiously. They were all young and naturally realized that she was Lin Che when they saw her. However, they were simply puzzled and wondered if Lin Che came to find their teacher because she was going to act in some ballet-related show. Furthermore, their teacher was no ordinary teacher. Each one of them was the most outstanding ballet dancers who could one day join the national dance group. Only they could follow this teacher. Lin Che said shyly to the teacher, I don't know any basics. I might trouble you. She replied, it's okay. This may be a crash course, but your condition is very good. You're actually very suited for dancing. Your legs are straight, yes, and your arms are very nice. Learning ballet is very tough work and you may not be used to it initially. Even though you were recommended by Gu Jingze, if you're afraid of suffering, then I'll advise you to give up now. If you're not afraid to suffer, then you can stay and learn properly. Otherwise, if you can't learn something, I'll still ask you to leave regardless of who sent you here. Lin Che said, Teacher, I'm not afraid of suffering. I will learn well. She smiled, then, we'll have to see your effort. Lin Che started learning on this day. She did have difficulty picking it up. In the beginning, her feet would swell up, but she still didn't give up and continued learning. This surprised the teacher greatly. She spoke to Gu Jingze's men and said, initially, I thought that she was a celebrity and would be very delicate. But I'm very surprised that she's very hardworking and trying her best. She's working even harder than these professional dancers and her basics are very good. She has good potential as a dancer. Although it's definitely not comparable to a professional, this crash course will definitely allow her to perform. Gu Jingze received this feedback and was silent. He pondered and went to the school at night. He saw that Lin Che was dancing with some of the ballet students inside. They were helping Lin Che learn and were very close to her. It had only been a couple of days, but everybody was rather fond of her. In the beginning, they had the same thoughts as their teacher. They thought that Lin Che was only here for fun and she wouldn't be able to endure such a tough training. However, her effort made many of them very surprised. Some even felt heartache for her when they saw her swollen leg. Lin Che, I thought it was all fake when actors said they had to learn skills. It turns out that you really need to learn. You are fantastic. It must be hard for you. Lin Che replied, it's not because of acting, actually. This time, it's for something very important. Some of them said, Lin Che, you're really so kind-hearted. Oh right, is that your boyfriend standing outside? Lin Che then reacted. She looked up and saw that Gu Jingze suddenly appeared at the door. The students began to become infatuated. Lin Che, your boyfriend is way too handsome. Yes, you two make a perfect match. Is this not supposed to be publicized? We won't tell anyone. Lin Che smiled and quickly walked out. But before she could take a step, Gu Jingze already scooped her up. Chapter 448, I'll definitely win you back. Lin Che asked, hey, what are you doing? This is a school, put me down. Gu Jingze said, don't move. We'll talk when I take you home. Lin Che speechlessly looked at Gu Jingze. The two of them reached home very quickly. The maids saw Gu Jingze actually carrying Lin Che in and were very puzzled. Gu Jingze asked the maids to fetch some hot water and then he put Lin Che down on the sofa. When the hot water was placed at the side, he waved his hand to dismiss them. Lin Che was still shocked, but Gu Jingze already took her shoes off and tossed them to the side. One look at her leg and it was indeed already swollen. And it wasn't a light injury. His heart couldn't help but ache. He looked up with his dark eyes staring at her. Don't participate in some party again. Lin Che froze and then quickly said, don't be like this. I said don't go. Don't care about what others say. You are my wife. I'll make sure that whoever dares to talk about you or mention this incident will disappear from C Nation. They will disappear from every corner I know. Lin Che had never seen Gu Jingze like this. His dark eyes were so cold and murderous intent was almost jumping out through his soul. It was as if anybody in his way would be ruthlessly trampled under his feet. It was like man stopping the murder of men and God stopping the murder of gods. He was really very angry and he looked scary when he was angry. Lin Che quickly grabbed his shoulder. She looked into his eyes and said, no, Gu Jingze, no. Gu Jingze listened to her voice. He knelt on one knee and his eyes were leveled with hers. Lin Che bit her lip and looked at him holding her leg. Her heart was warmed. She suddenly felt as if she could do anything for him. Yes, all these were so that one day, she could stand beside him properly and without being despised. What he said was right. There was no need to care about what others thought. However, it was all the more so that she wanted everything to be perfect. She looked at Gu Jingze, but I've already started learning. I don't want to give up. Gu Jingze's quiet look was frightening. He looked at Lin Che, this is not considered giving up. Don't endure this suffering anymore. Let's not participate. Let's stop learning. No, Gu Jingze. I've already been through the worst part. Don't you see, isn't this swollen now? It will change for the better tomorrow. If I just give up like this, then my hard work these past 2 days will be for nothing. There's no way I'm giving up now. I can't waste this. Furthermore, all this may be extremely tough, but the one who benefits will be me. It'll be useful for me in the future. It's no big deal to continue learning. I can persevere. Please trust me, okay? Gu Jingze still couldn't bear for her to do so. He looked silently at her, raising his chin and stiffening his face. Lin Che said, really? I know it's tough, but isn't life like that? If everything goes so smoothly, there'll be no meaning to life. I simply want to try and challenge myself continually. It's very meaningful to me. Also, Don't tell me that you believe that I'll definitely lose and all my effort will go to waste. Are you stopping me because you don't believe in me? Gu Jingze looked at her quietly. After a long time, his expression finally softened. Lin Che then smiled and said, and it doesn't hurt at all. Alright, get up, I'm going to wash up. But Gu Jingze did not budge. He massaged her leg and said, don't move. Let me do it. Lin Che hastily said, no, I can do it myself. I just need to soak it. I'll help you massage it. You. Gu Jingze didn't wait for her to speak. He immediately placed her feet into the water and washed them. Those previously fair and slender feet were now swollen like bread rolls. He washed them meticulously, not ignoring any of the gaps between her toes. Lin Che's feet were in his hands and she couldn't help but blush, especially when he pressed at the sensitive spots of her feet. It tickled her and she wanted to withdraw her feet. Looking at the man who was kneeling on the ground, she thought that a man who could humble himself was the greatest man. That seriousness in his eyes as he stared at her feet really made her feel hot. The next day, Lin Che went to ballet class in the morning and made an appointment with Situchong in the afternoon. Gu Jingze never thought that she would be able to convince Situchong to teach her. He sent Lin Che to Situchong's home. When they were outside, he said, this person's character is weird. Remember to call me if you meet any trouble. Don't worry, it'll be fine. I think that everyone is just exaggerating. Gu Jingze shook his head. This lass was still so naive. Villains don't spell it out on their foreheads. Even elementary school kids know this and you don't. Get lost. Of course, I do. It's just that he doesn't have any reason to be bad to me. True, you indeed don't have any value that Situ can make a big fuss over. Go away. Gu Jingze added, but Situ is hard to please because he doesn't care who you are. He dares to do whatever he wants to do. This kind of person has no principles and is not afraid of power. That's why people feel that he is difficult to handle. Okay. Alright, go ahead. Lin Che very quickly entered the house. After watching her enter, Gu Jingze still decided to leave some people here to keep watch before he left. Housekeeper Chen of the Situ household saw Lin Che and brought her in. He smiled and spoke as they walked, Master Chong really hasn't taught anyone fencing in a long time. We were really very surprised that you were able to make Master Chong pay attention to you. Is that so? Will he still know how to fence then? Tisk, Housekeeper Chen said, don't say something like that. This girl was too bold with her words. However, they were all indeed suspicious. Did Master Chong, who had to suddenly return to take care of family matters, still know how to fence? Very soon, Lin Che was inside. She saw that Situ Chong was already standing there. He was tall and slender, but obviously still aloof. Lin Che walked in and said, hey, I'm here. He turned around and looked at Lin Che, are you ready to suffer? Situ Chong then brought Lin Che in to look at the equipment. The fencing room here was really very professional. Everything looked especially complete. Situ Chong said, fencing is divided into 3 disciplines, foil, épée, and saber. The fencing competition for your WW party will be foil. It is also the most suitable style for girls. He gave her a set of equipment and said to her, there are sensors on it. Once the sword touches them, it will give a signal. This is a way to help the referee determine the score in the game. Wow, fencing has so many styles. Now, he looked at Lin Che. You will first do physical training with me. Ah. Chapter 449. Mr. Situ really gave her special treatment. He said, with your small physique, you don't have enough strength for fencing. There is no way to win. Okay. Lin Che didn't expect herself to take such a tough training. His training room was full of things and the intensity of the practice was immense. Furthermore, Situ Chong was especially sick during training. He stood coldly while appreciating her sweaty look. Looking at him like that really excited one's fighting spirit. Lin Che looked at his sneer and didn't want to be underestimated by him at all. Thus, she continued with the practice. Situ Chong watched her motivated demeanor. He smiled and said, let me know if you can't carry on. It's just a WW event anyway. You have Gu Jingze's protection and you actually don't even need to put in this much effort. Lin Che only looked up and glared at him. Why don't you just die? Situ Chong said, haha. You want me to die just like that? Yes, I'm struggling here and instead of encouraging me, you're doing the exact opposite. Situ Chong said, this is to shake up your willpower. Well then, you can pack up your willpower and go back to serving your second young master Gu. Humph, I'm not falling for your trick. I will continue training and I will treat this arm machine as you. Every time I tear it, I'm tearing Situ Chong, Situ Chong, Situ Chong, Situ Chong. Ha ha ha, okay, go ahead and try. Situ Chong burst into laughter. The people outside heard the two of them inside as if they heard ghosts. They looked at each other. This Lin Che actually called young Master Chong by his name and told him to die in front of his face. Did she have a death wish or something? After a day of training, Lin Che simply collapsed on the mat. She looked at Situ Chong. He stood tall and looked proudly back at her. Lin Che sat up. I'm very curious. Why did you suddenly agree to help me? Me, I'm not actually helping you. Only you can help yourself. He looked at Lin Che and sat down. If you can't persevere, I won't be able to help you either. I just thought that you would go back after one day and never come back. That was why I agreed. Nonsense, I don't believe you. Lin Che sat up with her legs crossed. Her clothes were covered in her sweat and her hair was already wet too. He said, all right, I thought that you have no chance of winning against Lu Chusha. Even if you learned fencing and are better than her, you will still lose because of horseback riding and ballet. You cannot rival her and I like to help the underdog. Lin Che frowned at him and said angrily, you're such a bully. She took the mat on the floor and started hitting him. You're hitting me, seriously, Situ Chong said. There's no use in hitting me. You still can't win. I'll still hit you whether I win or lose. If I win, I'll hit your face. If I lose, I'll beat you to death. Hey, stop. Fine, I'll tell you. You have a chance to win actually. Lin Che heard this and stopped. She looked at him, really? Of course. How? When a miracle happens. Miracles always happen in life. You get lost, idiot. I'm going to beat you to a pulp. Lin Che huffed and once again starting hitting him. When they were done playing around, it was almost time. Situ Chong walked her out. At the door, he watched her leave while housekeeper Chen asked, will she be coming tomorrow? Yes, she will. Situ Chong looked deeply over that direction and said. Housekeeper Chen heard this and was very surprised. He didn't realize that Lin Che could hit it off with young Master Chong. However, Situ Chong also never came across such a brazen girl who could kick up a fuss with him. In the midst of practices, Yu Minmin called her and told her to head to the office for an important matter. Lin Che very soon reached the company. Yu Minmin was also there. She looked at Lin Che and said, there's a TV drama that will begin filming in the second half of the year. You can take a look at the script now. Lin Che took the script and saw that the title was, Witch's Diary. It was a particularly popular online novel that was a hot hit on the internet. It was highly sought to be made into a film, but nobody could afford to do it. Now, there's a company that already bought the filming rights. The author will personally be the screenwriter and studio manager. Because there were too many readers, many people were afraid that the film adaptation wouldn't be good. The author also made a promise that he would make sure that it would be filmed properly. He will carefully select his filmmaker so that he doesn't destroy his own show. Lin Che said, this TV drama will become a classic. That's right. The director is now saying that your image is very suited for one of the female leads. Ah, really? But the important thing is that, Yu Minmin said. The director also took a liking to Qin Wanwan. Lin Che just knew that it wasn't going to be so easy. Yu Minmin continued, you are competing with her for this role now. Lin Che said, all right then. We'll compete with our skills when the time comes. Yes, anyway, we'll see who gets selected by then. The company has been focusing a lot on grooming her recently. You better be more careful. Lin Che heard this and was surprised. Are you saying that the company might be giving an unfair treatment? I believe that they have been focusing too much on her, but let's not talk badly about the company. Don't think about all this first and focus on your WW banquet for the time being. This is just to give you a heads up. Oh yes, congratulations on becoming Satu Chong's disciple. I didn't expect you to really do it. He said that he just wanted to watch the chaos. Sigh, he heard about my situation long before and thought that it was interesting. He just wants to watch me struggle and die. Sigh, this man is a little too evil. Never mind, it's already good enough that he's willing to teach you. Just endure it. The two of them walked out and saw Qin Wanwan walking towards them. Qin Wanwan hadn't seen Lin Che for a few days and specially came out to see Lin Che this time. She couldn't figure out what Lin Che had been up to since she disappeared and pushed aside all activities. The company was very upset about it, but couldn't do anything either. Qin Wanwan looked at Lin Che, not expecting her body to look like it was in better form. She brushed past Lin Che, smiled, and said, I was wondering where you have been. What's wrong? Did you go change your image? Lin Che asked in puzzlement, why? You seem a little different. Lin Che replied, just some things cropped up at home and I had to take a break. Qin Wanwan also didn't say much. She watched Lin Che leave and then said to her own manager, she does indeed look different, right? I suspect she's been secretly training and doesn't want us to know. Her body looks more firm as if she has been training. I wonder what kind of plan she has this time. Anyway, we need to think about countermeasures now. Chapter 450. Attending WW Party. Perhaps she felt threatened since I came here. Perhaps so. She still tries to hide it from us and thinks that nobody can tell. She is probably worried about not being able to get resources because you're here and your images will clash. Thus, she's in a hurry to change her image. Every day, Lin Che went to practice fencing in the day and practiced ballet at night. Her schedule was packed. In between, she would learn horseback riding. She got extremely tired. The day of WW party drew closer and closer. Lin Che's ballet was almost there. She was able to dance quite well, but she and Yu Minmin watched Lu Chusha's previous performance. Lin Che really felt her headache when she saw how Lu Chusha danced. How do you think you can compare to her? She's practically a professional as for me. Yu Minmin asked, what about fencing? I'm not sure about fencing either. That bastard Satu Chong never taught me properly. Are you sure you want to attend the WW party? We can forget about it. Get lost. Lin Che looked up to the sky and heaved a long sigh. No matter what, she had to participate. Lin Che said, if I can't beat her at ballet I can think of something else. Like what? Will you break her legs? Idiot, I'm not that violent. I got it. I'll go speak to my teacher. Lin Che bounced out while Yu Minmin shook her head speechlessly. After chatting with her teacher, Lin Che rushed to Satu Chong's place. Satu Chong asked, haven't I already told you the important points about fencing? Why are you still here? Lin Che directly grabbed his collar. The people around them were shocked. Was this Lin Che crazy to treat their young master Chong like this? But Satu Chong made his people back down. He even chuckled and looked at Lin Che, what do you want? I believe that you haven't taught me everything yet. Tell me now, will my fencing be able to win? If I lose, I will kill you. You hear me? Satu Chong shook his head. Looking at her, he loosened her grip, patted her shoulder, and said, fine, you're right. I didn't tell you everything. What? You seriously just you wait. However, when you're fencing, you only need to remember one thing. No matter who your opponent is, focus on one thing. Remember what your goal is. The best defense is to go on the offense. Remember your target, remember what exactly it is. It is to defeat her, right? Lin Che heard this and was a little confused. She stared at Satu Chong and didn't say a word for some time. Finally, she only silently nodded her head. He said, I am optimistic about you. After all, you are my one and only disciple after so many years. Do it well. Lin Che nodded. WW banquet. The participating elites, socialites, and young ladies were dressed to the nines. They headed to the small island where the week-long event was going to begin. Gu Jingze took Lin Che on her journey in the morning. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze in surprise. Are you coming along with me? Gu Jingze asked, why? Who else are you bringing if not me? Isn't this a girls-only event? Lin Che replied. Gu Jingze took her hand and asked, do you know what a woman's greatest asset is? What? It's her husband. Lin Che was not convinced and said, who says it's her husband? A woman's greatest asset is herself. If it were others, I can still believe that. But am I not your greatest asset? Do you think you have something more valuable in your hands? Fine, she was stumped at that moment. But when they got out of the plane, she indeed saw many people outside. It was obvious that they were all here for the WW banquet. The population on this small island was small and mostly made up of tourists. Most of the tourists came by boat while those who appeared from the private airport were wealthy people from all around the globe. Everyone also brought their husbands as they disembarked their planes. Going with the wind and under the curious stares of some visitors, they sat in their cars. Lin Li brought Han Kaiying and Lin Yu together with her. The WW party was really very difficult to get into, so Han Kaiying insisted on coming. Lin Li actually got a pass from Lu Chusha and it was her first time participating. Thus, she brought her mother along. Han Kaiying got out of the car and looked at the resort in front of her. She hastily said to Lin Yu, quickly take a look around. What if there is some prince passing by? Better get to know some of them. These people will never be within your reach on a regular day. It's such a high-scale event, so you better grab hold of this opportunity. Lin Yu looked at Lin Li, who was the main attraction today. Lin Li was dolled up prettily and prepared to participate in the banquet. Lin Yu somehow felt unhappy. It was all because Lu Chusha chose her to be her lapdog. That was how Lin Li rose to the top. The people back home knew that Lin Li was actually going to participate in WW banquet and was practically celebrating. They felt that Lin Li was finally useful, so they spent a huge amount of money to help Lin Li for the banquet. Lin Yukai also told people he met that his daughter was participating in WW banquet. He felt so triumphant. Han Kaiying looked at those socialites. They were dressed very elegantly, which obviously required money. She felt envious. She tugged Lin Li and said, look, that's the wife of the president of an oil company. I've seen her before. She is from a real estate company. Oh my, that person owns a private bank. Lin Li quickly stopped her. Are you done? I know them. You don't need to tell me. Han Kaiying said, of course, I have to tell you. It's so rare that you're able to participate in this banquet. If we didn't have this rare opportunity, would we still get to step into such a high-end banquet? Didn't you see all these people? They are worth billions of yuan. If you catch anyone's eye, the next half of my life will be pinned on you. Just then, they saw a row of people clearing the way in front of them. Move aside, move aside. All irrelevant people please move aside. Han Kaiying was pushed aside as she was seen an irrelevant person. She angrily said, hey, we're here to take part in the banquet. Do you know that? Do you dare to push me? But in the next moment, they saw Gu family's bodyguards appear. After that, Gu Jingze's business car pulled up. The moment Han Kaiying saw the Gu family's people, she immediately backed down. Although she wasn't willing to, she recalled what Gu Jingze said the last time and didn't dare to do anything. She could only watch from a distance as that sprite Lin Che stepped from the car gracefully. This little slut who had always been living in the nanny's room in her own house now actually had people making way for her. Gu Jingze got down and held her shoulder. Seeing that her dress was crooked, he reached out and straightened it for her. Gu Jingze looked at her dotingly and nagged, you're such a mess. Lin Che laughed and said, it's fine. I have you. We are complementary.